Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom's back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Now today I'm doing a video that I've wanted to do for a very long time where I am ranking every single track set that shows up in clubs. So this is a video for the boys, alright? The ones that understand the good grind or sometimes the bad grind. But whatever it is, we are the ones that make the cash money in clubs, okay? And today I'm going to be ranking, in my opinion, what are my favorite track sets and what are my least favorite track sets. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm a pretty picky person, okay? When things go my way, I go all out. When things don't go my way, I'm out the door. I'm a all or nothing person. I always have been and I always will be. The best example of that is going to be in how I max my cars. It's either locked and max or stocked and unlocked. Literally, I do not care. Okay, when it comes to epics and legendaries, I might have some sitting at 2-star or 1-star, but from outros and below, I'm all or nothing, okay? And it's the same thing with clubs. When I see track sets that I like, it's a grind day, baby. I'm making 250k minimum. It's money, money, money. Obviously, track sets aren't the only thing. Requirements is a huge thing too, because sometimes we can have good track sets. Sometimes we can have good track sets, and then sometimes the requirements is like ×5 common, ×2 French cars or something like that. So that's obviously going to suck. But what I will say is this: will I prefer bad requirements, good track set, or bad track set, good requirements? The answer is I'd rather have great track sets and horrible requirements. I'd rather play 5 times common and it's a twist and turns other than a 5 times dodge and it's a road less taken hot garbage. So if you've been in my Discord server, you would have known for literally the longest time that I have named every single club track set. I've given them their own personalities. That way it's easier for me to remember what track set is coming up. So not only do they have their own names, but each track set is associated with a different car of my choice. Sometimes I dedicate it to a Patreon. So for example, we have Twist and Turns Corn and Twist and Turns Wyatt. And what I usually try and do is I try and give my patrons the good track sets. I feel like it's a bit mean to give my patrons the bad track set. But anyway, usually I would do it. If not, Jan Flip would do it. Sometimes Oliver does it. Sometimes Beamer does it. Sometimes Korn does it. But if you do want to join my Patreon, link in the description below. We try and post every single day what track sets are in clubs to give you guys an easier experience when you get on that grind. Obviously, there's no algorithm to this, or maybe I don't think there is, because every day it seems to be a different combination of track sets. But one thing that always happens in clubs is that one of those track sets are always going to be off-road, at least one. Sometimes you can have 2 with a Desert Sands, but for the most part you're gonna have at least 1 off-road track set. So that's always a constant, and it's always 3 different, well, sometimes, yeah, it's always 3 different track sets, but sometimes it might feel like 2 because they're 2 variations of Storm Chaser running at the same time, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, today I'm going to be ranking every single club track set, and these are the ranks that I've got for you today. Grind day. These are the track sets that cannot go wrong. I can turn my brain off and I can make cash easily, right? So I can make 7,500, 7,500, 7,000, blah, 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 blah. Next one is RQ dependent. So these are really good track sets depending on RQ. Usually if it's high RQ, we're in for a good time. The thing is, sometimes when you get Dragon City and the RQ is very low, it gets a little bit tedious. Third rank is requires brain. This is where we start getting to the track sets I don't really like, but I would still play. It's just that it requires me to think before I make a hand, which is, I don't like that. I like peak efficiency. I don't like to think. I don't play clubs to think. I play clubs to just get as much money in as short of a time as possible. Then we have unfavorable. These are track sets that I see where I just don't want to play anymore. That's it. I see those tracks and I'm just like, oh, it's you. I don't want to play you anymore. And then the last but not least, hot garbage. There's only one track set that's going to be hot garbage, and it's named hot garbage. But anyway, let's get into it. We're going to start with California Storm Mary. Now, this one over here, okay, track sets. pretty okay. Like, it's all rain. There is one track set that does require a little bit of brain, which is the 75 to 125. There is a very fast track set on this. It's not too bad though, because there seems to be a drag on almost every track set. There's an ocean long drag. So I'm gonna put it in RQ dependent and requirement dependent. It can be a very fun track set, but I wouldn't say it's that versatile to be grind day. Next up on the list, we are going to have I do believe California Storm Wolf. Now, California Storm Wolf is literally almost the same as Cali Mary. Once again, let me know down in the comments below which track set is your favorite in terms of personality, because everyone has a different name, everyone has a different photo. So Mary is a Corvette, Wolf is a Saab, blah, blah, blah. It just makes things more fun that way. And also count down below how many dodges I've actually given to these track sets. Wolf is still okay. Literally the same thing as Mary. You're just running kind of just standard tire cars, one medium, because there's going to be ocean city streets and stuff, and then one constant drag. Wolf is a little faster than Mary, so Wolf has 2 drags, whereas Mary has more 1 drag, because Wolf has ocean long drag and ocean short drag on the same track set. Sometimes they've got a 0 to 100 to 0, sometimes they've got ocean short drag and ocean city streets and fast circuit. Again, it can be fun, but it's RQ dependent. Next up is Cali Storm Agnes. Now, Cali Storm Agnes is atrocious. I really do not like this track set at all. I'm gonna give it unfavorable. The main thing about Cali Storm Agnes, and I'll put the photos here for more of the, you know, the less appealing ones, basically. Oops. Anyway, Cali Storm Agnes, why is it unfavorable? Because it's just really messy. First of all, you're not allowed to have any slick tires, because there isn't any dry asphalt on all 4 track sets. There are some, like there is a dry hill climb, for example, but you can't run, you know, your slick tires on other track sets where there's only, like, you know, 2 sand off-road, 1 ocean beach slalom car park ocean. It's a lot of brain. It's a lot of brain to use. Every track set's a little bit different. Basically, when I see this, I'm just like, oh, it's you. The main thing to note for this track set is just run 1 all-surface tire car, because an off-road tire car doesn't do very well on, what is it called? Ocean beach slalom. You don't want to run an off-road tire car in that, because it is a mix of on-road and off-road in the rain. So basically, like, off-road tire cars are really bad on-road rain. So that's going to be like the 1 all-surface tire car. But then outside of that, there's this one really annoying track set where you need to use a drag car on 3 out of the 4 track sets, but then on the 4th track set, it's just ocean beach slalom, ocean city streets, car park, hairpin road sand, and hill climb sand, where you can't use a designated dragster anymore. So this is a really bad track set if the RQ limit is really low, because there aren't going to be a lot of versatile cars where it can handle a drag but also handles very well. When you get very low down on the RQ, you either get a drag car with no handling or a car with handling that can't do the drag. So no matter what, when you get a California Storm Agnes, and that's why I put a Prius there, because I hate Priuses and nobody likes the name Agnes. I'm sorry if your name is Agnes, but it's true. But yeah, like when it comes to low RQ, there's always just going to be one track set that you're going to suffer on, and I absolutely hate it. So yeah, Cali Storm Agnes is a shit show. Next up is Circuit Breaker Clarkson. Now ironically, Circuit Breaker Clarkson existed before Clarkson was even a Patreon, and surprisingly I've even chosen a Lotus for that photo, so it kind of just worked out in the end. But yeah, we now just associate it with the Patreon Clarkson. It's good. Circuit Breaker, for the most part, is really, really good because they're just 5 twisty track sets, or like 5 or 3 twisty track sets and like 1 hybrid track set, because sometimes there's like a quarter mile or a fast circuit. But you can't go wrong. Just run slick tires if you want to, run performance tires if you want to, anything that handles well. Circuit Breaker Clarkson is a good one. And it's the same thing with Hollywood. Like, you cannot go wrong with most circuit breakers. Hollywood's a really good one too, very similar to Clarkson. It's really just 4 twisty, 1 dry. There might be a test bowl here and there, so you can run a Koenigsegg if you want to for the higher RQ stuff. But for the most part, it's a lot of indoor karting, a lot of slalom, a lot of G-force. Just run twisty stuff, Donkavoids, Opel GTs. You know, throughout the RQ board, you're surely gonna find an option. So Hollywood and Clarkson, they are really, really cool. Now, next up is Circuit Breaker Kenzo. Kenzo requires a little bit of brain. The reason for that is because Kenzo just wants to be different. One of his track sets, one of the 4 track sets has, it's a rallycross. So there's a little bit of dirt. That doesn't mean that you want to run all surface tires because the other 3 track sets have no off-road. So if you run an off-road tire car there, it's probably going to suffer. Unless you're running a rear-wheel drive off-road tire car that handles well like a Prototipo, you might be okay. But it still does require a little bit of brain. Outside of that one track set that has an off-road, there is another track set that has twisty circuit rain. So basically, like the other 2 circuit breakers we talked about, you can just run 5 slick tires easy. Kenzo, you just gotta be a little bit more careful about it. Run 4 slick tires or 4 performance tires, and then really think about what car you want to use for that off-road or what car you want to use for that rain. You see, the other thing is, you don't really want to run an off-road because on the track set with the rain, you can't put the off-road on the rain track set, so you can't use your off-road tire car as the bogey car that's on the weird track set. You know what I mean? So it requires brain, so I don't really like it that much, and that's why I'm gonna put it in the rank that I put it at. All right, next up is Circuit Breaker Mushroom. Circuit Breaker Mushroom is also really annoying. It also requires brain. I don't like it. It's an off-road version of Circuit Breaker. Some track sets has 2 off-road, some track sets has 3 off-road. So what's the deal? Are we running 3 off-road tire cars? Are we running 2 off-road tire cars? Either way, there are going to be track sets where you suffer, and I don't like those kind of track sets where there is going to be one track at least that you will suffer on no matter what that you do. So yeah, Circuit Breaker Mushroom requires brain. I don't really like it that much. Next up is going to be Circuit Breaker Marlin. Now, Circuit Breaker Marlin is named after a fish because it's all rain. Circuit Breaker Marlin is RQ dependent. I think most rainy track sets are RQ dependent because there are a lot of requirements out there, a lot of brands where they really suffer when it comes to standard tire versatility. For example, Dodge doesn't have a lot of standard tire cars. It's like what, like a Caliber, right? And then some 4-wheel drive cars, and that's about it, like the Challengers. Same thing with Cadillac. If it's ever a standard tire Cadillac event, you're just running ELRs and Cadillac 16s, like that's it. So Marlin is very dependent. I would say like just rain in general is very dependent. Let me know which is your favorite, by the way, because Kenzo, I'm using the Evo. Mushroom, I'm using the MAGTE. Obviously, Circuit Breaker Hollywood, I'm using Hollywood. I think that one is self-explanatory. So I just love all these different characteristics that I'm giving everybody. Anyway, moving on now, we're going to City Living track sets. So first one is City Living Ethan. All the City Living ones, honestly, are just like, okay. Like they're all like RQ dependent. Like they're not good, they're not bad. City Living are all one entity. They're all the same. As you can see, I've either chosen saloons or estates, or actually I chose a Hammer for the Athena. But Athena I'm running, I think, is a 500 SEC. Ethan is a A7. Lexington is a S400, and Bennett, named after my best friend. Some of these are actually named after my best friend. So actually, the cool thing is Lexington. So Lexington is named after the street that I used to, not the street that I used to live on, but when I was living in New York, I sat on 57th. And the closest train station, subway, was 59th and Lexington. So, and I saw this Mercedes at, Lexington Avenue. So I took that photo of that Mercedes. So that's really cool. That was a really cool one. Obviously, City Living makes sense because I was in Manhattan at the time. City Living Ethan is also named after one of my good friends, and his dad drives an A7, so I had that. I remember his dad used to drive us around back in the day in his A7, so that was pretty cool. And then yeah, Bennett is also named after my best friend. I don't know why I chose the Cadillac. I think I just like the Cadillac. Bennett's favorite car is a Mazda RX-7, not a Cadillac CT6, but I digress. And obviously Athena's a Mercedes, but yeah, every single City Living is good. I don't mind it. Honestly, it's just RQ dependent. It's all the same. Just run 2 drags, 1 twisty, two medium ground clearance cars. This and Dragon City are literally almost the same thing. It's chill. It's chill. Nothing about it at all. Next up are the Desert Sands. Now, the Desert Sands, we have Jessica, Moscovin, and Jesus. First off is Jessica. Now, Jessica is pretty cool. I would give it RQ dependent once again. A lot of twistier track sets. Now, there is one thing that you need to take into account. These two Desert Sands, Moscovin and Jessica, are completely different Desert Sands. Jessica is more twisty. She's got curves. Moscovin is all about just the drags. Like there's this one track set on Desert Sand Moscovin, which is just half mile, quarter mile, 1 mile hill climb. and then there's a twisty road, and then another one is half mile hill climb, quarter mile 0 to 60. So it's just fast stuff, but at the end of the day, like desert sands, you can't go wrong with any of them because it's just all off-road. They're either running fast off-road or twisty off-road. I can still turn off my brain, but again, it is RQ dependent. Because if it's low RQ and it's based off a brand that doesn't have any all-surface tire or off-road tire cars, then you will suffer. Another example would just be Cadillac, because Cadillac just has nothing. Cadillac, Desert Sands, what are you gonna do? They got no all-surface, they got barely any off-road tire. Well, they have no off-road, barely any all-surface tire cars. You're gonna be running like those 4-wheel drive standard tire Escalades if the RQ limit is low. It's terrible. So it's RQ dependent. If it's a brand like, I don't know, like Porsche, that has basically everything under the sun. So Porsche's got a lot of off-road tire, all-surface tire, canes, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it'll be good for desert sands. If it was like rear-wheel drive, I can use like Lancia 037s. That's fine too. But there are some requirements that will pair with desert sands, and it will just be a mess. So it definitely is RQ dependent on my end. All right, next up, we're gonna move on to Dragon City. So we have Dragon City Violet, which is a Pontiac GTO. We have Dragon City Mia, which is a Acura or Honda NSX. Dragon City Odessa, which is a Challenger Hellcat, and then we have Odd Job, which is a Bentley Mulsanne. Now again, Dragon City, much like City Living, they're all just cool. Like they're all RQ dependent. They're still not, like, in my opinion, they are absolutely the best. You know, like I can't turn my brain off. You still have to use your brain because sometimes, you know, you don't know which one has 2 city streets. Well, they all have 2 city streets mediums, but you know, sometimes they are RQ dependent. There isn't too much versatility. Some brands don't have a lot of medium ground clearance cars that are good. Actually, an example would be Porsche. If it's Porsche times 5 and it's Dragon City, the medium ground clearance options are very, very, very minimal. It's like the Panamericana, the end. You know what I mean? And again, like, these are all dry situations. So I know Porsche has a couple medium ground clearance standard tire cars and all surface tire cars, but those aren't going to be the best options to deploy. So I think they're good track sets, but they're definitely RQ and requirement dependent as well. But still, I can turn my brain off. It's still really cool. Odd Job. Odd Job is an interesting one because I'm actually going to give Odd Job grind day. Odd Job is the best Dragon City. Here's the thing. Some of the Dragon Cities, for the most part, if I were to summarize Dragon City, it's 2 fast, 1 twisty, and then 2 medium ground clearance. But there are some, like Mia, for example. Yes, sometimes it's 2 fast, 1 twisty, 1 medium ground clearance, but sometimes it's 3 fast and 2 medium. So you kind of have to use a little bit of your brain. There is still variation within, you know, those Dragon Cities. Very little variation in track sets, but still there is variation. But Odd Job doesn't have any variation. It's just 2 twisty, 3 drags. It's 2 city, 3 drags. That's it. There's not a single twisty track set in Odd Job. I mean, look at this, right? It's just 1 mile, medium, small, half mile, medium, small, 1 mile, half mile, quarter mile, small, half mile, medium. You get the point. There's no twisty. I like it. Odd Job's cool. It doesn't come around enough. It's really nice. All right. Next up, we're gonna go on Golden Sun. We have Golden Sun Poise, named after my other best friend, Jonathan, and his nickname is Poise. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna get into the personal reasons. His favorite car is an Aventador, so obviously I gave him the Aventador SV. And then obviously we have Golden Sun Gonzalez. Now, if you've been in my Patreon for a very long time, you would know that Golden Sun Gonzalez, the one that I'm waving around over here, is an Aston Martin Vantage, and it was never always just an Aston Martin Vantage. Golden Sun Gonzalez used to be an F12 Ferrari Berlinetta, and it used to be called Golden Sun Lewandowski. But when Lewandowski left Bayern Munich for the crap team that is Barcelona, I changed it immediately because he's a snake. But anyway, the Golden Suns are cool. Again, I would give them RQ dependent, but they are for the most part very fun track sets. So nothing wrong with that at all. Now, moving on, Grand Canyon Bruce. Grand Canyon Bruce requires a little bit of brain. You know, sometimes there's all surface, sometimes there's no all surface, sometimes there's off-road, sometimes there's rain, sometimes there's no rain. brain, sometimes it's mixed, sometimes it's not mixed. It requires a little bit of brain. There's a lot of variation in that track set, as you can see from the photo. But I do like it when I see Grand Canyon in clubs, because there's only one Grand Canyon track set. So I always know that if there's Grand Canyon in clubs, it's always going to be Brucey Boy over here. Alright, next up we have the Monte Carlos. And the first one is going to be Samantha. Samantha is just unfavorable. I don't like Samantha because, again, you're not allowed to use any slick tires. And the most annoying thing, I'll show you the track set here in the video as well. As you can see, the first 3 track sets is mostly dry with 1 off-road track set. There's 1 gravel G-force, there's 1 half-mile sand, blah blah blah. But on the 4th track set, boom, it's all rain. So I can't run any slicks. Like I'm not allowed to run. Like you think I can run slicks, but I'm actually not allowed to run slicks. It's really annoying. So I would say unfavorable. When I see Monte Carlo Samantha, usually I get kind of pissed and I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to play clubs today. And then next up is Monte Carlo Alfonso. I'm gonna do all of them. So Alfonso and Matilda. As you can see, I'm choosing all the bougie cars for the Monte Carlo track set. So first up, we got a 911. Monte Carlo Alfonso is fun. It's like borderline grind. I might even put a grind day. The thing about Alfonso is it's literally just fast. It's just speed of light. It literally just is speed of light. Speed of lights are the best, by the way. I mean, the tracks that's on Monte Carlo Alfonso is just waterfront drag, half mile, 1 mile, a half mile, waterfront drag, Monaco City Streets, Test Bowl, 1 mile, waterfront drag. It's just drags. And it's really fun. It's just very consistent. The grind days are just the most consistent track sets. That's literally what it is. Next up is Monte Carlo Matilda. Matilda requires a little bit more of a brain. It's not that bad though. I wouldn't say it requires that much brain where I would classify it as requires a brain. It's okay. It's RQ dependent. There's a little bit of rain. There's a little bit of drag. It's kind of like Alfonso, but less consistent, but still pretty good. And then we move on to Mountain Pass. Now, Mountain Pass, both of them are really just very safe track sets. Both of them are also going to be RQ dependent. The only issue with Mountain Pass is just the track sets in general. The track sets are very consistent, but it's a lot of mountain track sets where super twisty cars aren't going to be the best in, especially RQ dependent. Like if it's a high RQ cap and you're running a super twisty car like a JPE, Superlight, Donk, you're still gonna be fine passing things like Mountain Hairpin and Mountain Incline Road and Mountain Tour. That's still okay. But if it's like low RQ, then like yeah, you want to use super twisty cars like the Opel GT because there are track sets like G-Force and Mountain Slalom. But then there are track sets where there isn't any super twisty track sets and there's like a hybrid track set, like for example Mountain Incline Road or Hairpin Road or Mountain Tour, and those cars are going to suffer because the thing is when you go down lower in RQ, specialist cars are just specialists, you know what I mean? They're not made for hybrid situations. But you don't want to use a hybrid car at the same time because then you have tracks like G-Force and Mountain Slalom where a specialist car would be useful in. So I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of you guys, but those two are RQ dependent. But they are very consistent in terms of just mountain theme track sets. Moving on are the Rising Storms. Nothing but JDM. So we got Akari, which is an R34, Daijin, which is an RX-7, and Ginza, which is an R33. I'm gonna be honest, I actually don't really like them. Rising Storm definitely requires brain. Daijin and Akari in particular. Ginza is still acceptable. Ginza is literally just twisty wet and one hybrid. Akari and Daijin is more like, yeah, I have to run drags, but in some situations you don't know if it's better to run a 4-wheel drive dragster or a rear wheel drive dragster with a lower 0 to 60 because you have things like Tokyo Drag where the traction bonus helps out a lot. It's really on the longer drags and the rear wheel drive is going to be better than a 4-wheel drive because then the traction doesn't matter anymore and then the MRA just kicks in. So yeah, Rising Storm, Daijin and Akari, they're kind of strange. They got like Tokyo Overpass and they've got Tokyo Bridge and all these hybrid track sets and they're all in the rain as well. A little bit of brain, not really a fan. All right, next up we got the Rising Sun track sets. The Rising Storm and Rising Sun are different. So Rising Storm is basically just Japanese tracks in the wet. And Rising Storm, and then Rising Sun is just Japanese track sets in the dry. The dry does make things a little bit easier. So for the most part, I'm gonna put Charlie, Yutaro, and Hasselhoff all in RQ dependent. It's really nice to see that most of the tracks are actually like nice. So yeah, like things like Ginza, not Ginza, sorry, but Rising Sun Charlie, which is a Viper GTSR, which is the first ever track that I ever made. So everything that you see here with different cars and different personalities, Charlie was the first one. Hasselhoff as well, the 420 SEL, he's pretty cool too. And obviously Yutaro, Ferrari F40, really cool. Like I said, it's just dry Tokyo track sets. All right, so it's been smooth sailing so far, right? Like all of these track sets have been really cool and stuff. Now we move on to the stuff that I don't really like, and that is the road less taken, and we've got a lot of road less taken. Then we move on to Storm Chaser, and I don't like the Storm Chasers either. This is a pretty long video, to be fair, but I do enjoy making this. All right, so we start off with Gary. Gary is 3 off-road, 2 on-road. We'll put it on that way. There's 1 drag component because there's a 75 to 125 on 1 track set, but on every other track set, that drag component isn't utilized very much. Gary requires brain. I don't really like Gary. Next up is road less taken, Landon. Landon's pretty cool because Landon is just 3 off-road and 2 on-road, but the 2 on-road are always constantly in the rain, and they're always also constantly twisty. Well, I say that, but there is one 1-mile drag that is dry. So there is one track set where you are going to hurt a little bit, but it is a lot more capable than Gary. In my opinion, Landon is RQ dependent. Next up is Scott. I like Scott. Scott, again, it's 3 off-road, 2 on-road. But the on-road factor is consistent where there's always 1 drag. So for example, there is a drag test bowl asphalt, there is a 1-mile asphalt, there's a half-mile asphalt, and a 0 to 100 asphalt. So there's always going to be a dragster with Scott. And because of that, I'm giving it Grind Day. It is my favorite road less taken, that or Rex. Next up is road less taken Wolfgang, which is the 959 Dakar. This one's a pretty interesting one. This one you just need to remember that there's a motocross track set. Not every single road less taken has a motocross track set, so that's a little bogey track set. You can't just run, you know, the rear wheel drive medium ground clearance cars. You need to put a high ground clearance car in there because of the motocross. This requires brain. Wolfgang requires brain. I don't really like Wolfgang. Next up is Taylor, named after Taylor Swift, because I am a Swiftie. Taylor Swift, road less taken Taylor's okay. It's again 3 off-road, 2 on-road. For the on-road components, there is a hybrid kind of standpoint. There isn't a drag on everything. There's a 0 to 100, there's a quarter mile, but on the other 2 there's a hairpin and a forest road. So again, it requires brain. Next up is road less taken Rex. Now, why I like road less taken Rex is because every single road less taken that we've seen so far is 3 off-road and 2 on-road. Road less taken Rex is actually 3 on-road, 2 off-road. But the problem with road less taken Rex is that you can only run 1 slick tire because 1 track set, although it's 3 asphalt and 2 off-road, 2 of them are wet and everything else is not wet, which is a little bit annoying. Rex, I know I said I like Rex earlier, but the fact of the matter is Rex actually requires brain, especially if you are new to clubs. For me, I kind of have Rex memorized. It's one of the better known track sets that's kind of living rent free in my head. I do like Rex, probably because I named it after the Ram TRX. Like any track set that I've named after a Dodge, I'm kind of more favorable to. It's kind of funny, but yeah, Rex does require a brain if you are a new player. And then last but not least, the worst one of all, road less taken Hog Garbage. That speaks for itself. This is basically the copy paste of that one Japanese daily that everybody used to hate. Hog Garbage is the worst track set, the absolute worst track set. I see that, I don't play. I promise. I see that a Hog Garbage road less taken track set, I don't play. Done. That and common is the worst combination ever. It's literally just mixing an atom apart, but that doesn't make any sense. It's like splitting an atom apart. It's the worst. It's actually the worst. Anyway, we move on to scattered showers now. Scattered showers, I'm gonna be honest, they all require some brain to the point where I actually think they are unfavorable. Definitely Arthur, you know, Arthur's got some medium, he's got some wet, he's got some slalom, some hairpin hybrid. I don't like it. Next is Scattered Showers Jan, named after Jan Flip, who helps me a lot with clubs. Again, I gave him a card that he wanted because he definitely wanted the Koenigsegg, but it's definitely not a very fun track set. It's better than Arthur, so I'm gonna give it Requires Brain. Still, it's mostly twisty, but you need to find a balance between wet and dry. And then Scattered Showers Synth, named after my Viper over here, is a little bit painful to understand because of that one track set, which is North Loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Until today, I don't know which North Loop is the fast North Loop and which North Loop is the twisty North Loop. The people have made graphs about it. I've just not memorized it. Some track sets are wet, some track sets are not. It does require a lot of brain and unfavorable in my opinion. Next up are the Speed of Lights, and oh my days, Speed of Lights are my absolute favorites. First one is Speed of Light Louis. I mean, I named this after myself for a reason. There's a 1968, not a 69, but a 68 Charger. Yeah, this is my favorite track set. It's the one I named after myself. It's the one that I only colored in red. To be fair, I like almost every single Speed of Light. So we got the Cobra, we got the Mustang GT500. As you can tell, I've named all of these after muscle cars. The only Speed of Light that I do not like is Speed of Light Chick. And that is because Speed of Light Chick is a Joker Speed of Light. I hate it. They call it Speed of Light, but there's City Streets Medium, City Streets Small, Car Park, Twisty Road, Slalom Test. How the hell is that Speed of Light? That literally just is like a worse Dragon City. So yeah, that's unfavorable. I do not like that. Then we move on to Storm Chasers. Storm Chaser Escobar. I like that one. He's a cool one. But again, it's RQ dependent. If it's low RQ in the rain, you're gonna suffer. Storm Chaser Hanzi requires brain. You know, there's a bit of drag, there's a bit of twisty, there's a bit of City Streets Medium, bit of not drag, sorry, but a bit of hybrid. You know, there's like hairpin and there's like fast circuit and all that kind of crap. So yeah, requires brain. Next up is Storm Chaser Bellevue, named after my favorite city from my home state. Yeah, again, requires a little bit of brain. Storm Chasers are a dime. They're a dime a dozen. There's so many of them, but not a lot of them are really fun. I'm gonna be honest. Bajoin, named after a Volvo or a Pulsar. It's RQ dependent. This was a little bit okay. Basically, like just run like 2 fast, 3 twisty wet. Like that's basically what it is. So that's a little bit better. It's less of a jumble than the other Storm Chasers that we've seen so far. Storm Chaser Han is my favorite. Storm Chaser Han is just twists and turns but wet. It's literally just 5 wet twisty. It's the best. Storm Chaser Blackfire is where would I put Storm Chaser Blackfire? You need a medium ground clearance for this, but for the most part, it basically is Storm Chaser Han, but with a medium ground clearance element to it. Not too bad, so I'll put it in RQ dependent. Next up is Kimberly. Kimberly is like Escobar. There are drags, but not as many drags. It's like a Monte Carlo, but all wet. It definitely requires brain, not too much brain. I'll put it RQ dependent, so I think it's okay. I'll put it in the same place as where I put Escobar, so yeah, RQ dependent. Next up is Michaela. Michaela, Kimberly, and Escobar. They're all very similar. Sometimes when they show up in clubs, I really don't know who is who because they're all wet and they all have a lot of fast. Like Michaela has got what? Fast circuit, quarter mile 0 to 100 to 0, quarter mile 1 mile 0 to 100 to 0, quarter mile, and then a half mile. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bump Michaela down a little bit because Michaela's got 3 fast on 2 track sets, 2 fast on 1 track set, 1 fast on 1 track set. So it can be a little bit messy. So yeah, bro, I'll give it a requires brain. Not really fun. Last but not least, the best of the best twists and turns. You cannot go wrong with twists and turns. The only twists and turns that I find kind of annoying is actually twists and turns corn. Corn, I'm sorry, I love you. Trust me, I love you. But much like Speed of Light Chick, Twist and Turns Corn isn't really Twist and Turns because they're 2 City Streets Medium. Okay, to be fair, it's not unfavorable. It just requires brain. That's about it. Because on some track sets you do need to run medium. You just need to tell yourself, oh, when you see this track set, you need to run medium ground clearance cars. There's also one hybrid track set because there's like a twisty circuit, hairpin road, fast circuit, all that kind of stuff. It requires brain, not too bad. But the rest though are amazing. Twist and Turns is usually like, I love it. Like I see twists and turns, I'm just like, I'm completely grinding today. Like if it's like clubs and I see twists and turns and Speed of Light or a twist and turns and circuit breaker, and it's one of the good circuit breakers, I'm just like, I'm going to town. This is gonna be easy freaking money, because twist and turns is literally just G4 slalom, G4 slalom, G4 slalom, twisty road, G4 slalom, G4 slalom, G4 slalom, twisty circuit, car park, car park, car park, car park. It's just handling or die. It's really easy. I can turn my brain off. It's great. So Wyatt, Scarlett, Sophie, and X. All of those cars, Tracksets are just fantastic. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. For the most part, a lot of these Tracksets are actually pretty good. So anything within the first 2 tiers, I actually do enjoy playing clubs with, and then anything in the bottom, I don't really enjoy. There are, yeah, basically just the rain stuff and the off-road stuff that I don't really like. I feel a bit bad putting corn in Ricardo's brain. I think it's RQ dependent. It's really not that bad. It's just twists and turns, but you need to run 2 medium ground clearance cars. And yeah, unfavorable. I really don't like scattered showers. I see scattered showers and I cringe a little bit. And then hog garbage. I see that, I don't play. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you enjoyed this video or not. Definitely if you play clubs, I think you really will. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day and stay safe. Wash your hands. I'm Blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville
Atlantic.
Blonde hair, don't care, look like Leslie